All right, everybody, welcome to the week 4. Can't believe it's week 4 already. We're a month into the season. The week 4 Gridiron AI Stone Cold Lead Pipe Lock Show. We're going to go position by position today. That's kind of our natural flow through the show. And I'm joined here by Rob. Rob, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Nick. Tough loss last night on the showdown when Tua went down. Both of our cash lineups went down, I think.
Yeah, so I ended up having a not so great night, but a couple tournament lineups min cashed. I was right there, man. I almost have the recipe, the code cracked for showdown tournaments. I think I just need to keep plugging away. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, we had a lot of the right plays in there. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. They all had pretty solid games. I think if Tua stays healthy, plays a whole game, we might have cashed in a little bit more.
Yeah, and we won't get into the Tua whether he should have been out there at all debate. That's not what we're here for. We're also not here for showdown. We're not here to dwindle on the past. We're here to talk about the plays for the people. So let's talk about QB first. And while we talk about QBs, we'll also mix in a little bit of some stack stuff right away. Running the optimal lineups, 150 with our projections. What we're seeing is everybody wants in on Josh Allen. He's the most popular quarterback play on the week at about 17% ownership in the million dollar maker. And he is projected kind of in a tier of his own, but he's not priced in a tier of his own. So that's why he's going to be the most popular. That's why the optimizer loves him when you don't put any ownership restrictions on it. So how's Josh Allen looking in your stuff?
He's such a safe bet this week under normal circumstances. The Ravens defense has been absolute trash. They allowed Mac Jones and the Patriots receivers to light them up last week. So if Mac Jones was able to do that, I mean, Josh Allen should just feast. But I think something everyone needs to pay attention to, and not just for this game, but for any games that are going to be taking place in the Northeast this weekend, the remnants of what is going to be Hurricane Ian are going to be in the vicinity. So we could be looking at heavy rain and possibly some strong winds during that game. So that'll be something to watch really closely and check out for Sunday morning before you start making your selections and your lineups, because, if you're getting 30, 35 mile per hour winds in that game, that could hurt for guys like Josh Allen who like to throw the ball.
Yeah, definitely. And that is kind of like the threshold. For the most part, like anything over 20, 25 miles per hour does tend to have a significant effect on the way coaches call games. Don't overweight the weather, though. But that is good insight there from Rob. Rob plays around with some weather data during the day, so good to get that insight from him. You heard it here first, folks. So other than Josh Allen, I mean, we all know he's a great play. We all know that he's the highest projected quarterback on the slate, but we're not going to sneak anyone by him. Who else is on your radar for this week if you're trying to get a little bit weird at quarterback, maybe save some money?
So if I'm not paying up this week, and really the only guys I want to pay up for is Josh Allen if the weather ends up playing out okay, and maybe Jalen Hurts. I'm a little bit scared of this Jacksonville team if they're good or not. Those are the two guys I'm paying up for, though. But I'm really not in love with a lot of the middle tier quarterbacks. Herbert hasn't looked good since he had that injury. Kyler Murray going up against Carolina. Again, they're traveling for that. I'm not sure what the weather's going to be like. I kind of like paying down this week. Jared Goff against Seattle. I think that's one of the highest totals on the slate right now. I think the totals are right around 48, 49 and a half. But someone who I love this week is Marcus Mariota at 5,600. He has tripled his value in salary every week so far this season. And at 5,600, you don't need him to have a huge game. You don't need him to put up 25, 30 points. If he gets me 15, 20 points at 5,600, I'm absolutely fine with that. And then I could spend up at running back for maybe guys like Jonathan Taylor, spend up at wide receiver. So I kind of like the idea of playing who I think should have a pretty decent floor this week up against Cleveland. Mariota is definitely on my radar in both cash and in tournaments. His ownership is projected to be a little high, though, so he is on other people's radars. I got him around 10% right now.
Yeah, so Marcus Mariota is projecting incredibly well this week. He's got two great pass catchers in Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Marcus Mariota has been rushing the ball well, scrambling a lot. The Falcons are not a great team, but they're moving the ball well. It's kind of fun to see. I guess Arthur Smith, like when he came into the Falcons, we thought of Arthur Smith as a guy that could score, maybe maximize talent. It looks like he might be doing a little bit better job there in Atlanta now. And his price hasn't come up at all after he's played well so far. So $5,600 for Marcus Mariota. He's the second most popular quarterback. Our optimizer likes Josh Allen for cash, but you're going to go toe to toe with a lot of people this week that have Marcus Mariota as well, which makes it fun. Like usually everybody kind of has a similar lineup structure in cash lineups and head-to-heads. But this week, I think you're going to have, like, did you go with the Josh Allen play or did you go with the Marcus Mariota play? Personally, I'll probably lean towards Josh Allen. But some other quarterbacks that are interesting. One here that projects well. Obviously, he's going to project well every single week. But coming in at sub 2% ownership against on the road against Houston is Justin Herbert. Is Justin Herbert coming up at all in your lineups when you're running them? Do you have any takes on Justin Herbert and maybe his injury? What's going on with the Chargers right now?
Yeah, I mean, he was someone who definitely caught my eye, but he just didn't look great last week. The whole offense has looked borderline dysfunctional so far this season. It is obviously a great matchup against Houston. It could be a good bounce back spot. It is a great leverage play for his current ownership. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that he's hurt. He's gonna put up another dud. Especially with what happened to Tua last night. I'm kind of straying away from quarterbacks who might be on the questionable side.
Yeah, so Justin Herbert, it is a scary play. It happens every single year to the Chargers. It seems like a lot of really, really bad injuries. They lost Rashawn Slater to a biceps injury, I believe. He's out for the season. Keenan Allen didn't practice again today, so it's not looking great for his availability. Mike Williams is not banged up. He's good to go, but again, he's not like a do-it-all receiver. He's got one very specific role, and that's go up and get it, and he's really good at it. But they're missing, like, Josh Palmer just isn't getting it done the way Keenan Allen does. And I do think that Herbert, he needs a little help, especially because he's got that rib issue right now. So people are down on them, but this is the spot. I mean, on the road against a Houston team that I don't really think we're scared of their defense all that much. Like, this could be a really, really good place for Justin Herbert to have one of his patented big time games. So in tournaments, I'll definitely be mixing him a little bit, stacking him with some different players, maybe stacking him with Eckler, because I do think Eckler is a running back that you can stack with your quarterback, one of the few. But yeah, so I kind of like going that direction. Otherwise, what's kind of coming up, like I said, Josh Allen, just full send on him for the most part. Marcus Mariota, and then, I mean, this guy, Jalen Hurts, is made for fantasy football. He was made to be the number one fantasy football quarterback overall, and you got him way later than Josh Allen. How's Jalen Hurts look to you this week?
He looks good every week. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This guy was built for fantasy football. I'm a little bit scared of this Jacksonville defense, though. I mean, the fact that they shut out the Colts, who then went on to beat the Chiefs. I mean, I know those divisional games can be tough and a little bit different sometimes. Speak between the Colts and the Jags, but I could see this as being kind of a trap game. You like Jalen Hurts up against the Jaguars. I mean, most times that's going to sound like a great matchup, but I caught a little bit of the game last week, and the Jags, they looked pretty good, and they absolutely smashed the Chargers last week. It was not even close. It was an embarrassing loss for them. So, I could see this game, being some smash mouth football, and I could see it going under the current total of 45 points. So I think I'm kind of fading. That's the reason I'm fading this game. But, obviously if it doesn't turn out that way, if Jacksonville is not what I think they are, obviously Jalen Hurts is going to have a really high ceiling. So, of all the quarterbacks to pay up for this week, he might pay off the most if this Jags defense is not for real.
Yeah, I'm going to play Jalen Hurts a lot, I think, because I just think the Eagles are that good. I think the Jags have run into some teams with some pretty bad offensive lines, and they got some talent on the defensive front. And I just think that the Eagles have the best offensive line in the entire National Football League, and it looks like I was checking current ownership numbers on AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is going to be a popular option. It seems like around 10% of people are going to play him either just by himself or with one of his pass catchers, which I think is the right idea with Jalen Hurts, is you play him with one of his pass catchers, not two. And I think that guy this week has got to be AJ Brown at 6%. He can just at any given day just have a monster game. So also, like I'll probably mix in some Devonta Smith, especially if I'm playing more than one lineup in a contest. But if I'm going one single lineup in a tournament, it's going to be probably Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. It's just the right kind of sneaky, but also just huge upside. And it's going to be an exciting game against the Jags, which I think preseason we weren't expecting. So is there anybody else at quarterback you're interested in before we move on to running back? Any stacks? How about your favorite stack?
So just keep in mind though. Remember that Philadelphia game. It's in home. They're playing in Philadelphia. So keep an eye on the weather for that game too. That was another reason I was kind of scared of playing Hurts. But yeah, stacks this week. I mean, if I'm going Josh Allen, I'm just going to throw in Stephon Diggs. It's a huge salary chunk. They're both salaried at $8,400 on DraftKings, but I'm willing to pay up for that upside. There's 70, 80 points there potentially. Or, you could get different and mix in Gabriel Davis or Isaiah McKenzie. But otherwise, for Marcus Mariota, who I said I love in both cash and tournaments, he's so easy to stack because you know where the ball is going through the air. It's going to Drake London or it's going to Kyle Pitts. I don't think I'm double stacking him because I don't know that Mariota has the passing upside to support both London and Pitts having upside games. But I might go back to the Kyle Pitts well again this week. I played him last week. I still think he's insanely cheap for a guy of his talent at $5,000 on DraftKings. So that's probably the stack I'm going with in the passing game if I'm playing Mariota.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned the Jalen Hurts stack, like him. Obviously, Josh Allen with Stephon Diggs, Lamar Jackson with Mark Andrews, can't go wrong there. But one that's, probably going to sneak by people this week is Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. It's just that we've seen the ceiling, right? We saw it week one. They can do it. I know that people are a little bit disappointed in the in the Raiders. They thought we were going to be it. They thought that the Raiders were going to be a little bit better team than they are. But Devontae Adams and Derek Carr, like on any given week where they're not the popular option, I'm definitely interested in. So let's move on to running back. While I get set up here, what do you think of running back this week? Who you got?
Yeah, there's a lot you can do with running back this week. I think last week was kind of a week that a lot of people wanted to pay down. This is a week where I'm kind of liking the guys at the top a lot, which is why, again, I was so high on Mariota. I think this is going to be a week where we finally see one of these big dogs break out. And I like all four of the highest price guys right now, who I think are Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and who else? Is it McCaffrey? Christian McCaffrey. I think all of them are in good positions to have huge games. So I'm up for saving salary elsewhere to pay up for these guys this week. I think right now, though, I like Jonathan Taylor the best against a Tennessee team that's struggled against the run this year. We haven't seen Taylor kind of break out since week one. He's definitely been playing below his average the last 2 weeks. And, when guys are playing below their average, they always regress back to the mean. So I like him to have a ceiling game this week.
Yeah, so I like that call for sure. He's not like my top option in terms of the big guys. That's Saquon Barkley. If I'm paying up, I think I'm going after him. In terms of who's the most popular play, anytime you can get Jonathan Taylor as one of the least popular plays of the most expensive backs, like that's a good idea. So I'm with you there. I'll definitely have some Jonathan Taylor lineups this week. But Saquon Barkley is the more popular kind of expensive option. He's also $800 less. That's probably why people view him as having the same ceiling as Christian McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. And both of those players are $700 and $800 more respectively. It looks like the most popular way to go for people this week is going to be Jamal Williams and Josh Jacobs and cash. Sure, if that's going to make everything else fit and work, I'm not really going to fade that. I probably won't play either one in any of my tournament lineups. I just won't. there's too many question marks around Josh Jacobs and how much usage he's going to get. And Jamal Williams is Jamal Williams. I mean, he might be he's the back that's the next man up with DeAndre Swift likely to miss a few weeks. 6,100 projecting for 15 points, like basically an RB1, like a solid RB1. I'm gonna take that value where I can in cash and completely fade in tournaments. That's an easy one for me. Other popular options are Christian McCaffrey, like you said, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris. How do you feel about Najee Harris? Because he still projects well. He's projecting for right around 16 points. He's a little bit more expensive than Josh Jacobs, but that could be a nice little pivot, similar upside in my opinion. But what do you think about Najee Harris?
Yeah, I got him. I have Najee Harris popping a little bit in the optimals. And I think he's another guy who's due, right? And he's in a good spot against the Jets. I got the Jets at 24th in the league for adjusted points allowed to running backs this season. And, like the over-under right now is only 41 points for this game, but the Steelers are favored by 3 to 4 points. So, if the Steelers get out to a lead and, they're running out the clock with Najee Harris, could be a chance for him to put up some points, and he's only 6,700. And his usage is generally through the roof, right? So he'll certainly have the opportunities. So there's definitely some upside there.
Yeah, and I think I really, really hope this ownership doesn't change between now and Sunday, because Khalil Herbert is like the number one running back popping in my optimization model right now. And he is essentially the same price, about $200 more than Josh Jacobs. And he's projecting similarly, actually better at half the ownership. So Khalil Herbert is like a massive leverage play in tournaments against the Giants on the road. I don't think the Bears are favored in that game. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Herbert has the opportunity with David Montgomery a little banged up. If people aren't going to play him as much as Jacobs, I'm definitely going to be on him for sure.
So I got to ask you, because this is another guy who I think is maybe a little bit chalky because of his price. Seahawks versus the Lions, one of the highest totals on the slate, ranging anywhere from 47.5 to 48.5. What do you think of Rashad Penny this week at 4,900? Are you willing to go to that well, just because of how cheap he is and the upside that he holds, even though he's been off to a really slow start this year? I think he's only averaging something like 7 points a game.
Yeah, from a points per salary perspective, he's the fourth best option behind Khalil Herbert, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley. I have a feeling everybody watching that Khalil Herbert's ownership is probably going to get up there. I'm just people don't tend to miss on low price running backs. They don't get by you anymore. So, but yeah, Rashad Penny definitely coming in around 7% owned, according to the ownership projections I'm looking at. And yeah, he's projecting for around 12 points. Not great, but at 4,900, you only need him to get there. And that frees up a lot of salary to do some other things. And you don't really have to eat any chalk to do it. So I'm definitely down with that. Are there any other running backs that are interesting to you? Maybe some really, really off the wall guys for the people.
I wouldn't really call this off the wall, but one of the top guys who I think has been flying under the radar so far, and he's right now only projected around 4% ownership. Nick Chubb at 7,900 for the Browns. Again, this is a game that's projected to be pretty high scoring and pretty competitive. The spread right now is only 1 point, and with a 47.5 to 48.5 over under mark. Atlanta's been pretty solid against the run this year, which is the only thing kind of deterring me, but that hasn't really mattered. I think Nick Chubb has seen the most 8-man rushes so far in the league this year, and he's still averaging over 5 yards a carry. He just can't be stopped. Of course, he needs to find the end zone to kind of pay off. But he could be a pretty good leverage play if you're looking for high upside and wanting to pay up for one of those running backs.
Yeah, it seems like just generally people are kind of staying away from that 7,500 range. 7,900, that's Nick Chubb. Austin Eckler, 7,700. He's coming in around 12% ownership. I like Austin Eckler a lot, especially if I'm going to play Justin Herbert, because they probably don't want Justin Herbert taking a bunch of hits with his ribs still healing. So Austin Eckler is going to gets so many targets. Like at the end of their last game, it's just absurd. Like he can just rack up points so quick. So the antithesis of Austin Eckler is probably Nick Chubb, but both have been top 5 running backs this year. So I like both of them. Great call on Nick Chubb. He's around 3% owned right now. He has a massive ceiling if he gets going in the right game script. It could happen against Atlanta for sure. And then another player right in that 7,500 range, Aaron Jones. Just no one wants to play him. He's what we wish Alvin Kamara was this year. I mean, Aaron Jones was Alvin Kamara light, and now he has fully evolved into the boom bust option that can win people $1 million. Is Aaron Jones showing up at all for you this week?
Absolutely not, because he's playing the Patriots, and I'm a Patriots fan. And I'm becoming guilty of letting emotions drive my decisions in my lineup building. I just want to believe that the Patriots are the Patriots from 2 years ago that were putting up 25 points on defense every week. They're obviously not that team anymore, but I can't do it. I can't go against the Pats. And just because they tend to play in low scoring games anyways. So, I mean, I don't really see it even being the best game script anytime you're playing against New England from any position. So I'm probably fading the Packers as a whole this week.
Yeah. So a somewhat popular play this week is going to be AJ Dillon, actually. So just from a leverage perspective, like if people are kind of on AJ Dillon and not on Aaron Jones, there's no good reason for that other than you have to like spend up $1,500 to get Aaron Jones. So I'd rather at least sprinkle in if I in spots where I would have played AJ Dillon, I might force the optimizer to play Aaron Jones and like make it work, which probably means that I'll spend way down at running back or something. But I'm okay with doing that. Aaron Jones, I think he is closer to that elite tier of fantasy producer than not, and I want exposure to that if no one else is going to be on him for sure. Those are the kind of decisions that can win you a lot of money, hopefully. All right, let's move on to wide receiver. Before I forget, we're moving the yellow box over. Anybody at wide receiver that's standing out? Who's your lock and load for this week?
So I think this week I have been kind of leaning towards Deontay Johnson. He has underperformed so far this year, and I think he's in a good spot against the Jets this week to finally have his breakout game. He's one of the most underperforming wide receivers in the league this year when you consider his air yard share and his target share so far this season. So that kind of volume that he's getting, I think he's bound to break out eventually, even with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback. So he's someone who's pretty affordable too. Right now on Draftkings, he's only $6,000. So I like that price and fitting him in lineups this week.
Yeah. So Deontay Johnson, Richie James, Brandon Cooks, these are, in my opinion, these popular wide receivers this week are gross. The first name that's like actually is like a superstar wide receiver, in my opinion, is Stephon Diggs. So people are paying down at wide receiver this week. It's a good week, Rob, I think, to kind of flip that and maybe pay up at wide receiver and kind of make it work at the other positions. I think that's a really interesting thing to do this week, because if I sort my projections here by projection, we got Devontae Adams at under 5% owned. That just seems weird to me. Like, if this were week 1, would that be the case? Probably not. People are letting the last 3 weeks or so kind of dictate where they're going with their plays. CeeDee Lamb's at 10% against Washington, who all Washington's going to do is pass. Some other wide receivers that I like, obviously Richie James, I think I mentioned him earlier, cheap option. Tyler Lockett, I mean, he's still Tyler Lockett. Doesn't matter who's throwing him the ball. He's doing well. Matt Collins, the optimizer, likes again. These are a lot of – it seems like the pricing algorithm on DK, DraftKings, hasn't caught up to some of this stuff. If Hunter Renfro's out again, we saw what Matt Collins can do. These are all fine options in cash. It's going to make it easy to make a fun cash lineup this week. Let's talk about Brandon Cooks, because he's the one where, like, if he's going to be popular, which he's coming in around 22% owned right now, if he's going to be popular, are you still into playing him in tournaments? Because he is really cheap for a wide receiver one on a team.
So, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Like all the popular receivers that are coming up are kind of gross, right? Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, DJ Moore, some of the guys that are popping. And these are guys who have just been underperforming with crappy quarterbacks. And it seems bananas to play all of them and think that all of them are gonna go off. So I'm not into playing more than one of those guys, and I think Brandon Cooks kind of falls into that same category as Deontay Johnson. So I love kind of what you just mentioned there. Maybe pivoting from Brandon Cooks to Tyler Lockett, who's only $100 more expensive, or maybe even paying down to Devontae Smith. He's the same price as Brandon Cooks, and he's got Jalen Hurts throwing him the ball. So I'm probably making the pivot to someone like Devontae Smith, who's actually somehow projected to be lower owned than Brandon Cooks. But again, I mean, Cooks is projecting well because of the volume and the air yards that he's been seeing from Davis Mills so far this year, and they just haven't paid off.
Yeah, I really I think this is the week to kind of find a receipt, like, because there's some, and again, this projection for the ownership can change as news comes out throughout the weekend. So definitely make sure you're revisiting it. The most optimal ownership projection is going to be the one closest to lock. So just looking down the list here, that pivot you mentioned is awesome. Like Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, both of them are coming in over 20% rostered right now. Devonta Smith is less than 3%. They are all projecting similarly. Tyler Lockett at 17 points is a median projection. Brandon Cooks at 15 and Devonta Smith at 13. I mean, any one of them can have the best game, and it's pretty thin, I think, to completely say Devonta Smith cannot outscore either of those players, and that's what the field is saying right now. Some other really, really low owned options in that range are Jerry Jeudy and Rashad Bateman. Again, not projecting as well. So again, we're projections people, but like you can't just trust the projections, because the reason why a lot of these players are really popular is because they do project well when you put them up against their salary. But we're going to have to put some rules and stuff into our optimizers to make sure that we're not just kind of blindly following the crowd on some of this stuff. Any other pivots that you see? I think that's a really valuable piece of information. Deontay Johnson's right around 6,000 there. Anyone you see that you could pivot to from Deontay Johnson? I know he's one of your favorite plays, though.
Yeah, so someone else I'm considering is Amari Cooper. He's looked really good the last couple weeks playing with Jacoby Brissett. And again, I like stacking this Cleveland-Atlanta game. I think it could be competitive. Atlanta's struggled to get pressure on the quarterback so far this year. So, we saw when Jacoby Brissett had time to throw the ball last week that, Amari Cooper was the guy and getting open. So I like him at 6,300, what I think should be a good matchup. And then two kind of other guys, since I think this game could go off, that I think you could consider in tournaments to save some money on and kind of pivot, are Olamide Zaccheaus, who I think he's the wide receiver too on Atlanta. He had a touchdown last week. He's only 4,100 on DraftKings right now. And if you wanted to get off of Amari Cooper, you could throw in DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's also pretty cheap this week at 4,000. If that game goes off, there's a chance that the secondary wide receivers get some points. So,
yeah, I'm gonna actually. Again, Rob and I are entering a competitive stage of our relationship because he's cleaning my clock in showdown slates, and also did much better than me in week 3. But I'm gonna one up you a little bit on your Olamide Zaccheaus call. David Sills projects better at $1,100 less for the Giants against Chicago, and right around 1% ownership. So that's a pretty solid play. I think that's how you can probably pay up a little bit from these 5,500, 6,000 priced wide receivers and get up into this range that I really like. I mean, Terry McLaurin, like these are good players that really haven't hit yet this year. Terry McLaurin, I think, is 6,500 right now. And where is he? Terry McLaurin, Christian Kirk, especially if you're playing Philly stacks, man, dude, I'm going to be all over that game. Christian Kirk in Philly stacks as the bring back. I think I really like that. DK Metcalf, if you can get up to him, like a guy like David Sills, the fifth, Rob. David Sills, the fifth at 3,000, projecting as what seems like New York's second option in the passing game. That might be a good play. And don't tell anybody about that. Everybody watching out there, because hopefully we sneak that one by everyone.
Yeah, I absolutely love the punt plays at wide receiver. I mean, Matt Collins worked out last week. If you can get a guy that cheap who's going to get volume, just throw him in there and hope for the best. And even if he duds, you only spent $3,000 on him. So I had never heard the name David Sills the fifth until just now. So I'm going to be exploring that deeply
Yeah.
this week. And also on the mention of the Jags Philly game and bringing it back, you know, if the Eagles are what we think they are, this really good team, they start blowing out the Jags. I kind of like Travis Etienne as a potential bring back, maybe getting a lot of check downs and dump offs with the Jags trying to get back into the game. So I think that's another receiving option. But at running back, if you wanted to get different, I'm not sure what Etienne is projecting at right now.
Yeah. So I like that call. Let me throw another name out at you. This one might be even more obscure. Another one that's another wide receiver that's projecting really well right now at 3,100 for the Lions against Seattle is Khalif Raymond. Is he showing up at all?
He has not showed up in any of my optimals, but let's hear about him.
Yeah, so he's actually surprisingly, we didn't think that anybody could project better than David Sills the fifth, but Khalif Raymond is coming in as the clear, I guess, number 2 option for Detroit, especially if Amon-Ra St. Brown can't go. He may be their number 1 passing option. He may fill that role. I know they have, I think, Craig Reynolds, Josh Reynolds. They have some other receivers around there. DJ Chark. DJ Chark's banged up a little bit. Khalif Raymond might be the last man standing in Detroit in a game that could shoot out. Could be a growth game, but at 3,100 projecting for 10 points, that really doesn't happen. And he's right now projecting as the best points per dollar value on the entire slate outside of Richie James. Everybody's on Richie James. No one's on Khalif Raymond. I'm going to be on Khalif Raymond. Anybody else at wide receiver, or you want to talk about our new friend Khalif Raymond?
Is Kadarius Toney playing this week?
I can look that up for you right now. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Kadarius Toney? Let's say he does play. Are you interested?
Well, I'm just kind of taking a look at the value adjusted targets metric I like to use, and I have him as like he's ranked 7th or 8th over the last game. So if you adjust his targets by being inside the 20, 10, and 5, he's averaging 12.5 targets per game. So that's potentially good value in there. The only problem is Daniel Jones is throwing him the ball, so he might only catch 5 of those targets. So, but I think someone else who is interesting is Robert Woods. He's only 5,200 and he's under 4% owned right now. This could be a competitive game, and the Titans are projected to be the underdogs right now. They're 3.5 point underdogs. I mean, Tannehill really has no one else to throw the ball to, and if Indy's able to bottle up Derrick Henry, they're going to have to go somewhere with it. So I think that could be a potential way to get different this week. He's averaging 11.5 value adjusted targets per game.
Yeah, another player I like in that game would be Treylon Burks, who is a full-time player now. He was running as like the wide receiver 4 the first few games. He had to earn it according to Variable, but he is a full-time player, so if you want to sprinkle in a Woods, or if you want to save a little bit of money and play Burks, there will be a week where Burks has a big game. I just think he's that type of player. He's not like a Stephon Diggs, like route running machine. He's running straight down the field. He's curling and he's slanting, and that's it. He's not running any other types of routes. But when he does get the ball, he's an absolute beast. Just missed on a touchdown last week. I think they're really trying to get him involved in the offense as well. So the Titans are both sneaky options there. Let's move on to tight end because we are starting to talk about some players that are very questionable. Tight end options. Man, I don't love tight ends this week or any week. Save me. Who we playing a tight end this week?
I'm only playing one of 2 players, and that's because I don't want to spend up for Mark Andrews. If you want to spend up for him, very good chance you'll be rewarded for it. But I'm only considering 2 players. I'm considering Kyle Pitts, who I mentioned earlier, and the other option, I like David Njoku this week too. on the other side of that game. Jacoby Brissett was loving him last week, and he's only 3,700. We saw what his ceiling is, and who knows if that's even his ceiling. What we saw last week, maybe it's higher than that. But at 3,700 on DraftKings, it allows you to get different elsewhere, and you can still get rewarded with some upside.
Yeah, I like that call. I think Arthur Smith heard a little bit of the outside noise and finally is just deciding to get Kyle Pitts the ball. Another thing is that Drake London's just really, really good. But especially if you're stacking up Marcus Mariota, you should have some Kyle Pitts lineups. You should have some Drake London lineups. The Falcons are fun. They're not very, very good, but they are fun. Mark Andrews is my number one tight end, especially in tournaments. Taking a look at his ownership here. He is going to be the fourth most popular option. So people are down to pay up this week. That's probably why we're seeing such trash wide receivers pop in the ownership models. David Njoku is another popular option because he's 3,700 and a focal point of that offense, it seems, in Cleveland, playing Atlanta, who, again, we're not scared of their defense. My boy Pat Freiermuth, all he does is score touchdowns, except for when I play him in Showdown. We're going to move on from that because I'm going to get upset with him, and I don't want that to happen. Some other plays that I like at tight end, Mark Andrews, a really popular one is going to be TJ Hawkinson, probably because a lot of the wide receivers are banged up. Are you seeing any TJ Hawkinson pop up today?
Yeah, absolutely. He's questionable as well, I thought. But if he plays, I do like him a lot at 4,100. I'll probably be playing him in some cash lineups right there with David Njoku. I did forget about him. Yeah, he's got some good upside this week.
And he does have the probable tag, so we should see him suit up on Sunday. So that's good to know. It's good when you can just punt off tight end and cash for sure. But if I'm trying to get a little bit weird this week, Evan Ingram, again, in that Jacksonville-Philly game. I'm probably just drinking the Philly Kool-Aid. That's where I'm at. I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but it's hard not to get excited about the team right now. They took the lead in the Vegas odds for the NFC Super Bowl contender. Jalen Hurts has proven all the haters wrong that said that he couldn't take a team to victory. And there's still a lot of talk about his accuracy and whatnot, but I'm ignoring all that. I'm playing Jalen Hurts. I'm playing one of his pass catchers, and I'm either bringing back Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram. Do you have any sneakier tight end options for the people out there today?
Yeah, so I think someone else who's flying under the radar a little bit is Darren Waller. The Broncos are pretty bad against tight ends dating back to last season. And I also have them as fourth in value adjusted targets per game among tight ends, and he's also under 5% owned. If this competitive divisional game goes off, it could be more than just Devontae Adams getting involved. It could be Darren Waller. He's 5,600. You have to pay up a little bit, but I think he's potentially another nice option.
Yeah. So I really like that too. He's coming in at sub 2% owned right now. It seems wrong. He's the third highest projected tight end on the slate. Some other options that I like that are a little off the rails, not so much. Dallas Goedert, just don't forget about him too. Again, in that Jacksonville game, I bring him up because, again, he projects well. Jalen Hurts looks his way. They scheme plays towards him. He's involved in the offense, and he's going to come in under 7% ownership to get out of that Jacksonville-Philly game, which I'm just obsessed with, apparently. Also, Zach Ertz, 4,700 against Carolina. He's, again, another very, very important part of that offense while DeAndre Hopkins is suspended. They probably can't, and they will throw the ball to Marquise Brown 25 times again. But they're going to be chucking the ball all over the yard no matter what, because I don't think Cliff Kingsbury knows what he's doing. But Zach Ertz should get plenty of volume against the Panthers, and at 4,700 and no one's going to play him, I'm in. Any specific tight end plays that are interesting to you this week? Any other good matchups that you might see in terms of players that might be suiting up against a bad secondary?
I think we kind of caught all of them because I was going to mention Zach Ertz as well. I kind of like that matchup against Carolina, but I think someone else who's interesting is Tyler Conklin. He's quietly been putting up a lot of points so far per game this year. I think he's averaging like 12 to 13 DraftKings points. I guess the only question is if Zach Wilson comes back, does Zach Wilson like him as much as Joe Flacco does? But going up against the Steelers, who have struggled defensively against tight ends as well, that could be an interesting option because he'll be cheap.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like anyone's going to play Dawson Knox either. And I mean, I just think that anytime you can get one of these tight ends like on these super powered offenses like the Bills, Dawson Knox is going to see some looks near the end zone. He's 3,800, under 2% owned, and all you need him to do at that price is score a touchdown. So I really like the Dawson Knox play, and he does have the ceiling where he could score multiple touchdowns. I mean, he's just going to have more opportunities in the red zone than other tight ends because he's attached to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is our favorite quarterback, and it's a really good way to like have that high popular option in your lineup and kind of like offset some of that chalkiness with a guy who no one's going to play. So I really like that play as well. Dawson Knox, make sure he's on your radar while you're building lineups this week. All right, finally, defense. We'll keep this short and sweet, and then we'll talk about what we're full sending. People can probably guess what I'm doing, but it'll be interesting to hear what you want to full send into the weekend. So at defense, what defenses are we targeting this week, Rob?
All right, so you're probably going to hate me for this, but someone I was considering playing was the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2,300, just on the off chance that their defense is that good and they do shut down the Eagles, and who knows, maybe we could be looking at a really competitive Jags team. Otherwise, I don't mind going on either end of the Giants or Bears game. Both of those defenses are priced really cheap, and I think that should be a low-scoring game. So that's kind of where I've been looking. But honestly, I'm not crazy about a lot of the defensive matchups this week.
Yeah, one that pops out for a lot of people, I think, certainly in the projections, is the Steelers defense. Shout out to the Steelers. They're playing Zach Wilson coming off an injury. The Jets just aren't a great team. It's in Pittsburgh. This could get ugly. Unfortunately, I think it could be ugly for both teams. I do think that they're going to be playing circus music at the game because both teams are a clown show. But I like the Pittsburgh D the most this week. They're also not really that chalky either. You do have to pay up for them, which is why they are probably not fitting into a lot of lineups. The two most popular defenses people are playing is the Chicago defense against the Giants, just because it's funny to target Daniel Jones and his fumbling habit. And then we also have the Giants defense against Chicago. So people just think that game's going to be really ugly, and I don't disagree with them. Are there any other defenses you like, or can we move on to the full send option?
I mean, because I'm a homer, I won't do this, but Green Bay, even at 4,100, playing against who I think is going to be Brian Hoyer and the Patriots, there's going to be turnovers there and probably not a lot of points scored by the Patriots. So if you want a nice, safe defensive floor, and if for some reason you've structured your lineups that you can afford it, the highest salary defense this week actually makes a lot of sense, but I won't be playing them.
Yeah. Man, that's rough. Yeah, Green Bay's defense is really talented, and Brian Hoyer is not. Sorry, Rob, but that's probably a good place to go. Not a lot of people are on that. So it'll be interesting to see what those lineups look like if you lock in Green Bay as your defense. Out of respect for you, I won't do that. Maybe I will. All right, last thing here, full send. Let's talk about some of our favorite plays on the week. I know it's early. It is hard to do some full send stuff on Friday, but what plays are you really excited about playing this week if everything kind of stays where it's at right now, which it won't?
So kind of my core guys, there is no way I'm building lineups without Marcus Mariota, one of Kyle Pitts or Drake London, and spending up for Jonathan Taylor. I think that's where I'm going to structure my lineups this week is spend down on quarterback and I guess potentially tight end if I go with Kyle Pitts and spend up for Jonathan Taylor. I just like the opportunities I have with the rest of my lineups by taking that approach. So I guess in short, Marcus Mariota and Jonathan Taylor are my locks this week.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to go with, obviously my stack is going to be Jalen Hurts and one of A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. And then I'm going to bring that back with one of Christian Kirk or Evan Ingram. And running back, I typically don't lock in running backs, and this week I think at running back I'm just going to let the optimizer do its thing. But I'm definitely going to be forcing at wide receiver. I'm going to be forcing in guys like Devontae Adams this week because no one's going to play him. I'm going to be forcing in guys like AJ Brown, obviously, in that stack, and DK Metcalf. I think like these kind of alpha wide receivers that are boom bust depending on the game environment. I think I'm going to be paying up at wide receiver in as many spots as possible, and then letting everything else kind of figure itself out. So I think that's it for the people. That's our full send plays of the week. Make sure you check us out at gridironai.com. All of our socials are right. Oh, this is hard to do, Rob. All right, that's backwards. But all of our socials are up above, so make sure you check those out. And if you have any questions, make sure you jump in the Slack. Hit us up on Twitter. I'm at run_the_Sims. Rob's not available for questions on Twitter. You'll have to find out another way to get in touch with him. And if anybody has any questions in the chat, you can drop them in and we'll answer them next time. So anything for the people before we head out of here, Rob?
Keep an eye on the weather. Keep an eye on the weather for that before you start stacking Baltimore and Buffalo and Philly and Jacksonville. That was a pretty nasty storm. Hopefully it weakens and falls apart before it gets up to the Northeast, but that will absolutely destroy your lineups if you're playing a bunch of guys in a game with 35-mile-per-hour winds. So that is what I will leave you with.
All right, and I'll make sure I stay safe here in Philly if it does get bad. But thanks a lot for joining me, Rob, and we will see you next week. Bye, everybody.